Welcome back, ladies and gents, and of course, thank you so much for watching. Well, we're back on this 89 Softail project, and honestly, not really sure how far we're going to get in this episode. I do want to get the rear end tore down, meaning get the rear wheel and the fender off and all that. But then we just got a lot of just maintenance and repair items we still need to do on the bike. And also, I want to get us to the point before we start restoring it or cleaning it up. I want to get this thing back outside so I can do another good degreasing on it. We already sprayed it once, but this thing is just covered in gunk. But let's just jump right in and see what all we can get done. If you guys have seen other videos on the channel, you'll know I do not like little covers like this on stuff. Just my opinion. I know people like them, but the reason I don't is because they end up hiding the natural finish of the bike, which I like. And also, a lot of times they'll end up ruining finish, so they can cause rust underneath and all that. So I do not want to reuse these, but we'll just have to see. If I can turn the ratchet right. We'll just have to see how these look underneath. I know nothing about these things. And again, I'm not knocking them if you like them. It's all preference, just my opinion. Oh, you got like an entire, wow. Holy cow, that bracket actually goes in behind the axle adjusters. Well, those were not even, those were just hand tight. These things were about to go. All right, get off of here. Holy cow, that thing was not even... Did you see how easy that came off? It didn't even struggle. That was loose. I should have hit that with a ratchet. Crazy. I know that impact is strong, but it should not have come off that easy. That is kind of crazy. All right, real quick on these. I've said this before on other episodes. So if you're taking these adjusters off, it can be, you know, any bike for that matter that has these adjusters like this. Go ahead and take you a picture of it, you know, close up so you can kind of count your threads. Now, don't use that as the way to align the rear wheel on the bike. You don't want to do that because, you know, it could have already been out of alignment or too loose to begin with. But that just kind of gets you in the ballpark when you put everything back on. Just to help you out a little bit is all. Awful lot of effort for a tiny piece of chrome. Just my opinion. Come on, get loose on me. Don't do this to me. There we go. Can we get this belt off? That's the question. Oh, almost there. There we are. Now we're going. There, perfect. See if we can tear this wheel up. See if my little jack idea here is going to work. Oh boy. Oh boy, come on. Come on. There we go. All right, let's see if I can do this without royally tearing everything up. There we go. Whoa, there goes everything. Making a mess. This is where it helps to have friends. Maybe I can use my foot. There we go. Well, that sounds bad. There we go. Get out of the way. And there it is. Boy, that tire is awful. I got to show you guys this. Good grief. Check out this tire on this thing. I don't think somebody was burning it out. I think they just used the snot out of it. I mean, look at this thing. I would say she's a bit used. Maybe I can throw it on Marketplace and say, what, lightly used? I'm sure somebody would out there. But this will definitely be coming off. The wheel itself is not too bad. Boy, that pulley sure is shiny. If you get in here and look at the wheel, in pretty darn good shape, so we'll clean that up. This I will be pulling off, and this is a chrome cover that's on this. I might actually leave that. I know I say I hate covers, but this is one I might leave. It's just going to depend on what this pulley looks like whenever we pull this off. Just because these are pretty, you know, you see this quite a bit, and it actually does look good. We are throwing white walls back on it, so that'll look pretty good next to it. On the other side here. And over here, a little dirtier. It is the brake side, but that's all. I think that's all going to clean up pretty good. Now, this rotor right here for the brake, I don't know if I'm going to remove it simply because of this hatred that I have right here. I can heat these up and get an impact on them. I'm just afraid I'm either going to break a head of this bolt or waller that out. So I'll have to think on it a little bit. The grease in here looks like, to me, being a 23,000 mile bike, which is low mileage, but I'm betting this is factory grease. This stuff is nasty. It is bad. So these wheel seals will be replaced, and at a minimum, we will repack those bearings. But overall, though, I think it's going to be pretty decent when we get it all cleaned up. And up in here, we got, that's just for the tail light. And then we've got the other wires for the bags. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a very precise measurement here. And yep, cut, perfect measurement. And then on these side ones, I do want to save a little, so that way I can actually, those can go with the bags if somebody comes and gets them. And then, so it doesn't feel left alone, other side here, let's see, precise measurement, yep, right there, perfect. Well, this fender on this bike doesn't really, it's not really that bad a shape, but it does have some dents down there on the tip of it, which is kind of a shame. But it could probably be used on another bike in the future. Probably could straighten some of that up with some pliers. I don't know. All right, what have I got here? I have a feeling everything's just going to start falling here in a second. All loose. That's good. Wow. What in the world? Why is this one so freaking... Ah! Oh, cut. All right, start over. That did not feel good at all. Yeah, I do believe this is cross-threaded. Terrific. Always something. Can't get to the nut though. On the back, or the bolt head. The nut's on the end of it. Let's see here. It's cross-threaded. Dang it. Cross-threading has been a theme on this motorcycle. Luckily, there was none of that on the engine. That was absolutely a blessing. But boy, everything else has got some problems. No, got to cut her off. Terrific. Let's go. I can't hardly see. So let's see if we can get something done here. I don't know if that's going to get through or not. Well, it's smoking though. Oh, it's cooking the it's cooking the rubber on that little wire holder. That's what's smoking. Well, I think I just made my situation worse. There, it's kind of, might be able to get it to pop off. Oh, is that it? Now, can we get on that? There we go. Just like that. If this one will even do anything. Oh, it's the same thing. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, what a, oh, trying to keep it PG. Trying to. Oh, never mind. There we go. I guess it listened to me. Can we do this and not drop the fender? Is that it? It should be. What is, oh, it's hung up. Oh, it's this right here. Lots of parts falling. That's all right. Okay. Well, I ain't worried about scratching. There's our fender. You can see back here it had A few little spots. I don't know if they show up on camera, but these are dented in. That's kind of a shame, but still a decent fender. Let's see over here. It just burned through the paint a little bit, so it's still usable. Somebody could use this on a bike. Check out all the polish that's on here, residue. It's funny. Somebody was polishing it. Pound this out before we remove this strut cover. I don't know if this is going to work. I hate to use a screwdriver for this, but I'm gonna. Oh, look at that. Use the screwdriver. Let's see if we've got no problems there. Yeah, because these thread directly into the frame. There. Good. Ooh, this one's pretty bad. Just a lot of cross threading. I think somebody was probably just doing the best with what they had. We're gonna get it better. And there it is. Not too bad looking. We got a few little spots, but so the idea here is we're just going to leave these as is, of course, and we're going to take us another fender and just kind of roll it forward. We'll just have the back of it right here. I don't plan to cut anything off this. I want to leave this frame whole, but I don't know. We'll have to see where we get when we start mocking it up. But that's not too bad a shape, which is good, and it should be because this is all factory underneath here. This will probably be some of the best looking coating on this frame. Here's hoping for a repeat on this side. Good. Good. Excellent. This little guard down here only had only one bolt holding it on. I was actually missing the one up here. How about that rattled like crazy going down the road? And this one's actually made of metal. I think they make these out of plastic now, don't they? Wouldn't shock me. What is it lodged into? Do I just pull? Oh, there is another bolt in there. We got to take this guy out. All right, I'd be pulling on that all freaking day long. Of course, this one's got a bolt missing. Everything is a problem. Or do these have nuts behind them? No, they don't. They just got some little clips. Good. All right, can I get to the freaking bolt for this? Can this just lift up? No, of course not. I can disconnect the wires from that though, but I just don't want to screw with that. And you guys can't really see what I'm doing clearly, probably. But this is not all this for a flipping belt guard. There. She's turning. Remarkable. This is the definite wrong way to be doing this. There. Yes, just release yourself. Get these off of here since I got this plastic loose. Boy, that was loose. Guess I shouldn't complain though. Don't need any more cross threading. Probably going to use these pegs out right here are actually in outstanding shape. They don't look like they've really been used. They're actually factory, or they're not factory, but they're aftermarket Harley-Davidson pegs. Probably going to use these on the front and get rid of them more bulkier, blockier ones. I think this style will go good with this bike. Oh, of course it's not. Why would it do that? Golly. Well, one of them was like hand tight, and this one's, there it goes. This one was crazy. So when you get everything off back here, the wiring doesn't look quite as dramatic as it seems. You got this wire over here. This was going to a bag, and this one was going to a bag, and I think he had signals and brake lights going to those, but all he really did was split off of the main one coming here. So it took some tail light stuff from here, as well as signals from over here, and that's what kind of created all this. Now we'll get rid of all the, of course, the connectors, like I've said before, and then the idea will have one nice clean loom coming just to the tail light, and then this will all be cleaned up. So when you remove the seat, you won't see this kind of this crazy bird's nest, but I think it's going to look good when we get it all back together. And these risers here are going to be replaced. Not sure why I didn't remove them before. Oh my gosh. That's not, look at this. I have not, so folks, I have not touched these. That's like hand tight. That is crazy. Well, that one's coming off easy. Let's see if we got the same thing. Yep, look at that. My gosh. Well, these bars were just hanging on by nothing. I wouldn't even call that snug. Looks like it's got some new, these bushings right here, looks like it's got some new poly. Anyway, looks like it's got some new poly bushings in there, possibly. I was going to replace those, but might be good. I normally run solid mount risers. I know they cause vibration, but it just keeps your bars nice and stout. All right, one set of risers. I can do this without dropping everything. Good. Let's see if we can pop these out. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I do believe these are relatively new. Yeah, these do. I do believe these are poly, but man, they just feel, they feel pretty cheap to me. I think I'm going to probably go with solid mount since we are going with taller bars. But these are still good. These could be used on a project. I'm sure this will just pop on out. Yep. And just like that. So next we're going to move on to this primary to get the cover off and do some inspecting and also get a new gasket on this thing to limit any leaks. But first, I want to point something out. And one of you guys said this in the comments, and I'm so appreciative of them. This is proof that, yes, I look at your comments and also kind of take them to heart a little bit. So somebody said this is not factory, this speedometer. And then I went on to the Googles and started looking, and I'm like, you know what? You're exactly correct. It is not factory, at least from what I could find. I don't even know if that's an HD speedometer, but regardless, it's pretty cool looking. And I came down here and looked at it, and I thought, well, let's look to see if there's any evidence. And sure enough, there is. And it kind of fits the theme of this bike with things being changed, especially fasteners. So you got like a button head machine screw here, Phillips head, and then you got another screw over here with a little nylock on the bottom. So you got a different nut and different head on, I forget what you call it, flush mount, whatever, on this side. So it's not going anywhere, but that is proof that somebody has been in this bike. Now, the big question, of course, is the mileage. So right here, we've got, you can see 23,000 and change on the miles. Chances are this bike probably has more miles than that, but we just don't know. I could speculate all day long. This thing could actually be used. Somebody could have pulled this off of a used bike and it already had a bunch of miles on it. Or somebody could have actually done the, can you even do that? Did they even do that back then where you adjust it, you know, do some kind of mechanical adjustment to get the mileage right? I don't know. Again, we could speculate. Also, the FL rear fender, I kind of wonder if that fender came off of another bike that also had this as well. Again, just speculating, because I do know that rear fender did not match back perfectly to the paint on the tanks or the front fender. So who knows? Who knows the history on that? The good news is that the motor runs great and the transmission shifts good. So that's still good. So I'm not concerned about the miles as much. And we got us a really cool speedometer. So, but anyway, kudos and thank you to whoever made the comment. Just proof. I don't care how many times you get into these bikes. I don't care how many you've torn apart. You're always going to learn something new. There's always going to be one or two things it's just going to get by you. This one got past me, and I'm quite frankly not afraid to admit it. So let's move on to that primary, and hopefully we'll catch everything on that when we dig in there. So if all you're needing to do on your bike is just to check the chain tension or adjust your clutch, you don't have to pull this whole cover. You can just pull your derby and inspection covers. I hear a tick, what I think is a tick coming from the primary. It's probably just a loose chain. I mean, I hope that's all it is, but I just want to get my eyes on it to make sure. Okay, there we are. A little bit of a mess. We got a rather newish style derby cover gasket on it. Yeah, I don't know. It may be okay. So now where's the ticking coming from? I did some good checking here on our primary chain, and everything honestly looks great. The shoe looks really good. Our adjustment is, I checked it, it's on the upper end, so I'm going to give it about I'm going to adjust it enough to give it about an extra 1/8 of an inch of tightness, because right now it's either at 7/8 or maybe a little higher, which is a little too loose. One thing I do is, I don't know if it's even in the shop manual, can't remember, is I like to rotate the engine to get this chain. You want to try to check your chain at different intervals, just because it can stretch in different areas. The rule of thumb is to adjust it at its tightest point. Of course, you can turn it by pulling your plugs, and for me, I'll just use the belt back there and manhandle the engine around. But what you want to do is check it at that tightest spot. For this chain, everything was the same tension all the way around, so that's good. That means this chain should be in good shape. I didn't notice anything hitting. I don't see any signs of anything hitting. So I'm thinking the ticking I was hearing, because it definitely I don't think was coming from the engine, was from a bad throwout bearing. That is on the other side, on the side cover. I'm going to have to pull that cover anyway to replace the clutch cable, so I'm probably going to go ahead and just buy a bearing for good measure and do that. Other than that, everything in here looks good. So we'll get this stuff adjusted, clean our gasket surface, and throw this cover back on. Oh, give me my socket back. Oh, not sure why I mentioned I was going to go ahead and adjust the clutch, because even if I don't replace that throwout bearing, I still got to get back in here with the derby cover off to get fluid in this thing, so I'm just going to wait. Chances are we will be replacing it, even if I don't know for sure, because they are pretty cheap. Let's see if I can get this on here. These usually go on much easier than Sportsters, just like that. And get this thing torqued down. So we're going to toss this intake manifold on the bike real quick. The reason being, I want to get this bike out to do some more degreasing on it. I want to get the intake on so then I can just temporarily mock up the carb just to kind of protect the intake opening on the heads. I could probably tape them up, something like that, but you know what? This intake has to go on anyway, so it's really not a big deal. So we'll get that thing thrown on. And as a bonus, look how shiny we got it looking. Oh, come on. Behave on me now. Now, when you get these things on here, what you want to do is just kind of, at least what I like to do, just do a little bit at a time on these. Now, these are hard to get to, of course, but you just want to snug them up by hand. You don't want to start just cranking on one end and then cranking on the other, because remember, you want this to be centered as best as possible, and also you want this thing to seal so you don't get intake leaks. And I can't honestly remember what the torque spec is on these. I've never torqued one just because I don't have a tool that can get to it. So for me, at least the way I'm going to do this, before I just start cranking on these bolts on the manifold to get them torqued down or snugged down to final, I went ahead and threw the carb on as well as the back plate. I'm using that to just kind of align that manifold because it will move on you. It's not a very solid fit. I mean, you could mount it up and it could be off in many different directions. I like to use this to just kind of draw it in to where it needs to be. Once I get this mounted, this back plate tightened down, then I'll go in here and just tighten these as best as possible with this on here, just so the manifold doesn't move anymore. Pull this off and then finish torquing it down. Now, I've seen some other guys do it other ways also, where they'll take it's almost like a protractor type tool, and that's honestly, it's probably the official way to do it, where you put it up against the face of the manifold, then you can put it up to the face of the heads here. That way your alignment's nice and good, because it doesn't take much for this stuff to be off, and if it is, that's whenever you can get intake leaks. And if you've ever worked on these before where sometimes these are really hard to get off or everything's bending, that's probably what it is. There is a good chance. But, well, naturally my ball and Allens are not going to work on this, but here's plan C. So you take this right here, and this is actually what I use to tighten these up. This simple. I got a piece of an Allen that's cut down like this and a 1/4 inch wrench. I'm going to take this Allen right here. Be prepared to drop this about 800 times when you do this. If I can get that in there without dropping it. And it does take a while. This is one of them patience things. So you got that down there in the head already. You take your wrench, you put it around it and try to hold it. I don't think I can show this all on camera, but I'll try. And all we're doing is we're going to go each corner a little bit at a time. See, I turned it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around to each one and just slowly but surely snug them down. I can move this over here. And then whenever this manifold is nice and stout and it doesn't want to move, then I'll pull the rest of this off. Now this Allen key, I did have to cut that one down as well, just for it to fit in there, because otherwise it would stick out too much. But just a little bit at a time. Yeah, just like that. Okay, I was able to get the manifold pretty evenly torqued down, pretty good, with the carb still on it. So I'm just going to kind of go around and check everything and make sure we're good. This is about a 15 foot-pound torque spec, so it's not tiny amount, but it's also not a huge amount, of course. I do not have a torque wrench that can get to that, so we're just going to try to give her a few little, yeah, just like that. We'll go around the corners. This is a lot easier when there's no parts on the bike. So we're going to be giving this stuff a try here. No idea if it's any good. It is a no rinse formula, which is perfect because we're going to be rinsing the crap out of this thing. Let's see what we can get here. Because this thing, you can see up in there, it's caked on, and I think a lot of that, I'm just going to have to scrub it off, unfortunately. Got to get in here. Might as well. I think our degreaser did a pretty darn good job. It definitely exposed some things and got the bulk of the stuff off. Now we still have a lot of gunk down in there I got to get to. You could honestly probably pry it off with a screwdriver. It's so bad. Wouldn't recommend that. Don't put a screwdriver to your paint, but you could. And then it also exposed more motor paint and primary paint that's missing. But that's kind of what it is. I'm not as concerned about that. So as far as this process goes, yes, we've degreased it. For those of you that may have not seen some of my other episodes where I worked on other bikes, this is just step one. This is just part one of the cleanup. I'm going to be going over everything, every bolt that I can get to, every part of the frame. We're going to try to get some polish on every part of the frame. There's going to be a lot more work that's going to be done on this bike. I'm not going to be putting all of it on film, but I am going to show my methods, techniques, and all that. And here's a spoiler alert. My techniques and methods are just elbow grease. There's nothing fancy. So this side over here, the oil tank, this is going to be removed next, as well as all these lines. They've got to go. You can see there's dry rot on these, so I think it's the right call to pull those out. So this is a pivot bolt for the swing arm. I think that's what it's called. There's a bolt and it goes through a tube that goes across. But anyway, notice the rust here. All right, so that rust is because of this lovely little gizmo that somebody put on there. And these things weigh so much too, which kills me. Put on there just to, have a piece of chrome and all that. Well, over time, because it was up against it, you get this rust. And since this isn't black, this frame is not black, it's got that kind of that off crimson-y color that's in this paint, there's really no way to touch this up unless you can get the paint. So you're better off just putting this back on there. Now, I will put some kind of a paint on there, like black, just to try to help limit any more rust. But that is a shame, folks. This is why I cannot stand these little covers. If you like them, that's fine. No hate, no hate. I just can't stand them. That's just my honest opinion. These things here, these just stick on. I'm probably just going to leave these two because I just don't know what's behind them. They're all on there pretty good. I'm afraid there might be some spots underneath them. But to me, this is like the equivalent of parking an old classic car out in the field under a tree for like 10, 20 years, and then you put a tarp on it. Don't put the tarp on it. You're going to make things worse. That's exactly what happened here. And as an interesting comparison, on this side, the cover that was on it was actually hanging like off by like maybe about a quarter of an inch, maybe eight, whatever. It wasn't flush is what I'm trying to say. And you see what happened? Looks perfectly fine. This would be so nice and easy to clean up. I actually pulled this one first and I was like awesome. And then I got to the other side and was like crap. So We will be putting both of those back on. That is a shame, but you know, it'll still look pretty decent, I think, when we're done. But anyway, let's move on to this oil tank. My plan here is to remove all these lines off of either the oil pump or the one on the oil filter housing up here. There's actually two of them. But for the ones attached to the oil tank, and try to pull the entire tank out with the lines attached to just give me a template of my lines. At least that's my plan. There's one. I was going to save on these clamps too, but they're not. Some of these heads on these things are wallered out pretty bad. There it is. This right here goes all the way up to the oil filter. That's the return. Yes, on these systems, the oil actually returns after it goes to the filter. And just like that, plans change. The reason is because this line is going to be hard to pull out of here because it wraps down underneath the cam cover area of this motor. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll pull that off later. It'd come off. I just had it off not too long ago. Oh yeah, I knew that would have some coming out. We're going to start loosening our nuts and bolts here and stuff. Boy, these were already loose. Now these tanks, they're not really difficult to get out. Well, they're complicated to get out because of how hard they are to get to. The bolting, the way they're set up, isn't difficult. It's just getting to everything. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They would be easier to remove if the swing arm was off, but we aren't doing that. We're going to do this the hard way. Oh, good. Stuff wasn't over tight. I like it. Oh, it's turning on me. Of course it would. Why would it not? There we go. That's going to work. Should be loose now. Let's see. Oh yeah, she's loose. Get these on out. Let's see if we can fish this thing out. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to go in and do some adjustments on stuff. That's just because of how these mount back here in the back. Ah, these are turning on me. I figured that would happen. All right, let's see what else we can do here. Making progress a little bit. Now I think we can get it. Had to loosen on some of these rubber mounts that are in here. And also I had the, you know, the battery cable still going up through the tank, which was not smart since the battery sits in there. All right, now we got it. Good, good, good. Go ahead and take this line off so I don't forget it. This should just pull right out, just like that. Well, boy, look at all that gunk coming off the bottom. I don't know if that shows on camera, but man, that's gross. Grody, grody, grody. There. What a mess. Now we got us some space in here. We can get to everything. Wasn't as dirty and greasy as I thought under here. The starter's got quite a bit just because the drain line was leaking really bad, but we'll look at that on the tank here in just a second. And of course, we got a lot of down in here and down there we can get to now. And then even this is our crank vent. Check this out. This is just moving. You can see the crimped connector down there. I bet it was literally leaking from that mount point down there probably. And it's not the, I did check, it's not the fitting that's spinning in there. It's the actual line, which is good. But we got all that out, and what we'll do is once we get the oil tank cleaned up, and then of course after we get all this cleaned and we've started to clean up the bike good, the oil tank will be the first thing to go back in. We do got to remove this one right here, which goes over here to the oil filter, but I'll mess with that later whenever we start measuring for lines and all that. But good deal. Came out relatively smooth, so can't argue with that. And then the tank over here, really nothing to talk about. You can see I got all the lines on there I'm going to use. I'm just going to leave all of our lines on here and just measure them as is. And then under here, this is really the real messy part right there for the drain. And I guess on these model years, the vent line came and went into that T-fitting down there because the tanks I'm used to seeing had 3 right here. But it's close enough. It's close enough. We'll figure it out. It is now carburetor cleanup time. So if you guys saw the first episode, you remember this bike. Well, the carburetor itself actually did very, very well. I was actually shocked at it. even the accelerator pump worked good. But for good measure, we're going to tear her apart. We're going to clean up everything as good as we can and get some fresh gaskets thrown on. I think it's going to help it out. Also, I highly recommend this. I've said this before with other parts, whenever you buy gaskets and all that. For stuff like this, my quick PSA, buy the quality stuff. Don't put the junk in it, because if you do, you might get lucky. You might get lucky. But if not, you're going to end up with an intake leak or a gas leak, and that's just very frustrating. Well, that was way loose. That's good since it's a flat tip. Somebody did put the Allen heads on here, which is outstanding. I appreciate that. If you've ever worked on these carburetors that's got these flat tip screws, you'll know what I mean. And I think CV's got the Phillips head. Well, that's the wrong size. That ain't gonna work. And that ain't gonna work. A little accelerator pump here. Get this out of the way first. The accelerator pump was working, but boy, that thing looks pretty rough. So we'll definitely be replacing that for good measure. This kit actually comes with all these parts, but we'll just toss them in there. Look at this accelerator pump right here. I don't know if it shows on film, but that is dry rot. So it was working, but it was on its last, and that's very common. These are one of the first things, at least in my experience, to go out. If you are working on a carb on your bike and you suspect you're going to have to rejet it and take this off quite a few times, I highly recommend getting the Allens. Definitely makes life easier. And let's see what we look like in here. Get our gasket, that'll be replaced. Come on, help me out here. Get off of there. Come on, get off. There, thank you. Let's see. Wow, this thing is not bad at all. I mean, it almost just looks dusty. That is crazy. This thing's in pretty darn good shape. We are gonna definitely clean it up. And just so you know, on these S&Ss, which is really cool, this is the drain. It's like a 5/8, I think. You take this out, so if you've got one of these and you're about to pour your carb, you can take that out to drain the carb, drain the gas out of the carb if there's any in it. But you can actually get to the main jet, which is right underneath it. Now, the problem is that main jet screws into this emulsion tube that will come out. So you never know. You could actually end up turning the whole thing, but it is kind of neat. There's our main jet. There. This emulsion tube out of here. And then here's your intermediate, or your slow jet, whatever you want to call it. Different names for them. And this guy right here is usually 9 times out of 10 the one that people go in and adjust when they're having problems. Or replace, I should say. You don't really do anything with the jet, you just swap it. But what you want to do when you clean these is just run your cleaner through it, like carb cleaner. Just make sure there's nothing in any of these passageways. And then this right here is the piece that comes up. And actually, if you can see here, this is what actually hits the accelerator pump. So whenever you, quote unquote, give it gas, like this, let's see if I can actually turn this. See how it's pushing this rod right here? Well, that rod goes down into here, hits that accelerator pump, and shoots some gas up through it. Pretty simple and archaic, but you know what, it works. And then we'll get a new one of these guys. Piece of rubber. I can get that out of there. Well, I need one now. I just ripped it. Go ahead and get this drain off of here if I can do it. It's kind of hard to do it like this. Oh, that's what I get for not doing this on the bike. Got it. Goodness. And got this drain out right here. Just clean that out. That actually does have an O-ring on that. That'll be replaced. It's teeny tiny. There we are. Get to that little bitty needle jet. And if you've never replaced these little guys right here, that's literally the only thing that's keeping your carburetor from overflowing and spilling all over your engine. Just that little guy right there. Super easy to replace those. If you ever have gas just overflowing out of your carb and it's leaking, 99% chance it's just this little guy right there. All right, so we're going to take these parts outside, clean them up really good. We'll get them back in and get them back together. But of course, before I get it back together, I am going to do a little bit of a scrubbing on some of this stuff. So we got our parts cleaned up about the best we could, and also did a little shine on it. Look at this thing. Not too bad. Probably could have gotten a few more spots, but I think that's going to look pretty good. I'll take a look at this bowl here. And all I did was use some brake clean with a toothbrush and a rag, and then I went over all that with some steel wool. That made this thing look pretty darn good. Even did a little polishing on our brass parts here and there, just to give it a nice little look. But let's throw this thing back together and see how it looks. Guess we'll start on this accelerator pump first. These little parts right here is where having the S&S kit comes in handy. You just want this stuff to, you want it to fit nice and perfect, if it will. These accelerator pumps can be a little pain in the butt sometimes. This stuff is just like working with a fun Lego set in a way. This is the beauty of carburetors, is that, yeah, they're not as super responsive sometimes. I say sometimes as fuel injection. But man, it's just easy. Probably should have said that after I got this back together. And this stuff does not have to be over tightened. I think that should go without saying. You don't want to overdo it because somebody else is probably going to have to get this off in the future. If you're pulling your carb on and off your bike to rejet it quite a bit, you can reuse a lot of these gaskets, by the way. I know on some CV carbs, man, I've probably had some bowls off on some of my old bikes countless times. Reused everything. It'll be okay if you do that. There. And I even cleaned up this guy right here, this plug. Oh, the S&S kit, though, did not come with an O-ring for that. I have no idea why. It's like, come on, S&S. I just sat there and talked about how great they were, and then, you know, don't even include the gasket. It'll be okay. It's an easy thing to replace if I had to. All right. Not too bad. Oh, yes. And I did not take this off on camera earlier. This is the actual idle mixture screw. You can take these out all the way. If you do and you want to get back to where you were, just count the turns, just tighten it all the way in, counting your turns. Then you'll know where to seat it to. So this one was actually right at 2 turns. That's all I'm going to do. And the cool thing about S&S is you can do these by hand. So I'm going to go all the way to seated. Then I'll take this guy right here. Just count our turns. 1. And about 2. We'll leave it right there. This thing's going to look pretty darn good on the bike, so we'll toss this on and see how everything looks. Guys, I think we're going to wrap this episode up here, but I wanted to just point out a few little steps of progress we've made here. So we got our carb on. I think it looks pretty good. It cleaned up very nicely. I mean, you don't have to do all that, but I think it's going to help just make the motor area look nice. So she's just lightly mounted on there for now because I need to be able to take this off. It's going to make adjusting these push rods easier. And also, I do think we're going to remove this S&S breather. So don't hate me on that. A couple reasons why. Number one, Yeah, I've got a bolt broke off in here. I know I can fix that, but the cover itself is in really, really bad shape. I mean, the chrome's coming off of it. It's pitted all over. It just looks bad. I don't like the idea of painting it or anything like that. So we're going to go do something a little bit different on it, but I think it's going to make it look pretty good. So my idea is, you know, how can we kind of dress up the top of this motor some? So we know we're going to go and do some touch-up paint here. I think we get a real nice slim breather for here. Since these are not head breathers on this engine, because it's an 89 model and it breathes down there on the bottom of the case, I'm going to get something that looks pretty neat here. Maybe, you know, at least some stainless bolts, chrome. I don't know, might go crazy and find something that's brass, if that's even possible. But just to make this look a little better, and we'll also run a little different and richer. So some more ideas to come on that, but I think that's going to make that area look pretty nice. And one thing I did back here is I did actually roll the bike back out yet again, just to degrease this little area. So I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did. I kind of covered up the motor a little bit where we had the oil fittings exposed and all that. But here's what I noticed. Number one, we got it looking pretty dang clean here. But number two, check out this starter. That is some fresh wrinkle black on there. This is a newish starter. And I say newish because I really don't know how old it is. If you look at the fitting here, if I can show it, it looks pretty new. So, I mean, granted, it could be 10, 15 years old. We just don't know how long it's been sitting on it, but that's good. I'll take that as a plus, getting a new starter on the thing. Now for the magical question is, where do we go from here? So plan-wise, I have a plan on what I want to do to the bike. I don't have a plan on how I'm going to put this into episodes and all that. So I'm literally making this up as I go. I think what we're going to do is we're going to just jump in and just start doing the cleanup, or what I call a budget restoration process. Just going to start to the back, clean up every part of the frame we can, try to clean up rust and do some touch up in areas that I can, clean up bolts, do that kind of stuff, get all the grease off, everything we can, just to start kind of laying the groundwork to make this bike look better. Also, up here, fork seals, they desperately need to be done. I've been kind of putting that off, so hopefully we're going to try to jump into that in the next episode as well. But that is my plan, or that's what I think the plan's going to be. I honestly have no idea how far we're going to get, so we're just going to have to jump in and find out. Well, ladies and gents, I think we've actually made some pretty darn good progress getting this bike tore down, and some parts of it are actually starting to look a little bit better, but we still have a long way to go on this project overall. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll catch us future episodes. And as always, I thank you guys so much for watching. We'll chat with you next time.